So today we're going to be doing some dehydrated ground beef. If you want to see how I do it, come on along. So to dehydrate ground beef, you want to start with the leanest ground beef that you can afford. In this case, I'm using a 93:7 ratio. If you're wondering why I'm doing a voiceover video today, it's because on the weekends, my daughter's house is very, very busy. It was hard to find any time in the video that music wasn't playing or maybe a video game going in the background. So I just thought, well, this time I'll just do a voiceover. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to brown up the beef and get it really, really, really well done. No pink. You don't want any pink because fat does not dehydrate. So you do want to make sure that you brown your ground beef very well. So I continued to brown it, and I want to say it took maybe 10 or 15 minutes before it started to look brown and it was crumbling up pretty well. Once it got to this stage, a good idea is to try to break up the larger pieces into smaller little crumbles. So that's what I did here. It does take a little bit of time, but it gives you better results the smaller the pieces are, and also it ensures that your beef is cooked all the way through. So that's why I took my time on doing this. As you can see, because I use such a lean beef to begin with, there's very, very little grease, which is what I'm looking for. I want to have the least amount of grease in my pan as I can have. Instead of using ground beef, you could use ground turkey, you could use bison, you can use any kind of ground meat, even ground chicken. So you're not limited just to ground beef in this method. Once I was satisfied that the meat was completely cooked and it was broken into small pieces, as small as I could get them in the pan, I rinsed the ground beef with very, very, very hot water. It was actually burning my hands when I was doing it. You'll see me snap my fingers several times while I'm rinsing this. That's a little trick that I picked up to let you know that you have all the grease out of the meat. What you want to be able to hear is, if you don't hear that, then you need to keep rinsing. The next step is to just load your trays up. What I ended up using was the solid mats that I had created the other day on top of the smaller hold mats that I also created. I ended up needing a third tray, and if you remember correctly, I only had 2 of the solid trays. So I created another solid surface by using parchment paper, and I just formed it the size of the tray and then filled it on top of the parchment paper. As I was filling the trays, I also was breaking the larger chunks up and creating smaller little chunks. They dry much quicker and more evenly, so that's why I did that. The other thing that you need to know about loading your trays is that you want to keep it as loose as possible, no overlapping of the meat at all. That will ensure even dehydrating all around the pieces. So you just keep filling up your trays and making sure that the bigger pieces are broken up into smaller pieces for even drying until you have all of your trays filled. This is where you can see the one that I created, the parchment paper for. It's the one that's down on the bottom, and that was the parchment paper one. And you can see how it's rough around the edges, but I just kind of trimmed it off a little bit. Then you just stack your trays on top. What I ended up doing, it because I have 5 trays, I had an empty tray on the bottom, and then I had the 3 meat loaded trays, and then an empty tray on the top. I made sure to set the unit at 165, plugged it in, and turned it on. I left the sound on the prior clip so that you could hear how crunchy or crispy the ground beef has become. That's how you'll know that it's completely done, when it sounds crispy or crunchy. I don't know how to word that, but that's how you'll know. You'll notice there's a blue cup on the counter beside me. What I did was I took a plastic bag and I put it inside of the cup, and that's where I'm going to load in the dehydrated ground beef for storage. You just continue to take the beef off the trays and put it in whatever storage container you have decided to put it in. And there you have your dehydrated ground beef. If you decide to start dehydrating and do dehydrated ground beef, I highly encourage you to go and research to see which methods work best for you.